My name's Ian Roberts. I'm a member of the St Anne's on the Sea in Bloom committee, and my role is to give you some background as to how this project started and how we got from that in May last year was when the idea was floated to this tonight. Now it all started with Fiona Boyes-Mason, who's the chair of St Anne's on the Sea in Bloom, and she's sitting there, and she's so much better than the last chair of St Anne's on the Sea in Bloom, because that was me. She's fantastic. And we were sitting in a committee meeting 14 months ago, and she said, I've got an idea. The Peace and Happiness Garden, we could do with something to celebrate the huge personalities and artists that have been connected with this area. Why don't we come up with some portraits? And it was this brilliant idea. And she went through the list, and at the end she said, now I need somebody to actually make contact with the celebrities or their representatives or their agents and get their permission and approval for what we're planning. Now one of the names that Fiona had mentioned was that Roy Harper. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, I've got a very loose connection with Roy Harper because I've got a chum who plays the piano for a band, and if you've been listening to me all these years, you'll know that the band is called the... Thank you, you were listening. The Bonzo Dog Doodah Band. Dave Glasson has played alongside a guy called Andy Roberts, who's a guitarist. Andy Roberts used to support Roy Harper. So I said, how about this? If I approach Dave, maybe he'll contact Andy, and you never know, he might speak to Roy Harper. So I'll do that. And Fiona, she used to be a teacher, she said, Ian, if you're doing one, you're doing them all. Yes, miss. So off we go. So I wrote to Dave, email, Dave contacted Andy, word came back from Roy Harper that he was flattered to be included. Wow, we're off to a flying start here. And just let me say, Dave Glasson, originally from Lytham, has come up from Brighton today to be with us. Dave, thank you. And thank you for getting us off to that flying start, because that gave me real confidence. And so 1 out of 8, next one, Al Reid. I wrote to the Al Reid Appreciation Society. A lady called Sue Taylor got back to me and said, contact the BBC, because they did a programme called Al Reid Revisited recently, 4 or 5 years ago, and maybe they can put you in touch with the family. So I emailed the BBC. Within a matter of days, I got a response from Stephen Garner, who had produced that programme. Stephen Garner, you will. He features a lot tonight. Steve said, Lee, he got back to me with Al's daughter's details, Julia King, and I wrote to Julia and she said, lovely, I'm paraphrasing, she said, I love the idea, I'm really buying into this. And when it came to the portrait that we sent her, she actually so kindly sent me some family photographs that I could pass on to the artist and get it absolutely right. And thank you, Julia, for being so supportive. It's been great of you. And at this point, let me mention Holly Boyes-Mason, the artist. You know, there was no brilliant... Everybody's been so thrilled with what she's produced. Thank you ever so much. So now we've got 2 out of 8. I'm not going to go through all 8, don't worry. So the next one, Amanda Barry. I wrote to Amanda's agent. Within a couple of days, I had a phone call. Is that Ian? Amanda Barry here. I'm thrilled to be included. Oh. Amazing. And so many people, thank you. And so many people had said, do you know what, I fancy coming down. Can I tell them what you said? I'd take a call from Hollywood to keep me away, you said.
They didn't call.
I know, but it's their loss. So this is going fantastically well. And one by one, Everybody said yes. And so, I'm sitting, I was going to say the library, but you know what's a library because it's closed. I was sitting in Wetherspoons one evening, and I'm thinking, I'm visualising how it's going to look on the day that we unveil these portraits. All these people are going to be coming down. Fylde Council will provide mugs of tea and biscuits. And at 5 o'clock, what we're going to do? It was wave you goodbye. You made all the effort to come down. And this little voice in my ear, and it was Judy Garland, and she said, she said, Ian, let's put on a show. Let's put on a show. And I thought, what a great idea. So I checked with the chair, and she said, go for it. Spoke to Stephen, and he said, come and have a meeting at Media City, which we did. We went over, and he said, I'll tell you what, I will find the time to go through the BBC archives, and I will find material on all 8 of them. Fantastic. So tonight, we're going to see what Stephen has gone and retrieved. Not just that, but that's a heck of a lot of it. So that's how we got from the initial idea to tonight. Now I'm going to go and sit at the back of the audience and watch what's being produced tonight. So I'm going to invite Stephen onto the stage, and I'm going to ask him to take it from here.
We've gathered here to celebrate 8 great names of variety entertainment, all associated in some way with Lytham St Anne's. As Ian said, my name's Steve Garner. My main job is working for the BBC as a radio producer, but since the mid-1980s I've been involved in various entertainment events, too numerous to mention, and I've worked with quite a few amazing people over the years. In fact, I could stand here this evening and just sort of name drop lots of people I've worked with, but I had a phone call from Michael Palin earlier on and told me not to do it. So, welcome to St Anne's Palace, marvellous place. The curtains are drawn, but apparently the rest of the room is real, which is good news. Last time I was in St Anne's was to host the annual Hemorrhoid Society dinner. When I say dinner, it was actually a stand-up buffet, which, piles of food. It was very, very good. And also the RNLI invited me over to an event, which they do every year. They always push the boat out for me, so I'm always very pleased about that. Life's generally good. I'm getting these in before Bobby Bowler arrives. Life's generally good, although I was once sacked as a theatre set designer, but I left without creating a scene, so that's fun. Right, as I discovered when the list of 8 artists was announced, I'd actually featured all of them in some capacity in the radio programmes I've either been a researcher on or I've been a producer for. And for a music, for our first person we're going to introduce, music was quite important. I was a music researcher on a series called On This Day, which ran in throughout the late 1990s. And it looks at the news from 50 years ago. I don't know if you remember On This Day, but it was presented by a lovely fellow called Geoffrey Wheeler, who presented, and don't forget tonight, audience, we want a bit of feedback from you. He presented a program called Top of the Form. Do you all remember that? Right. So the music is. Da-da-da. That's good. You like that? There's some people starting to remember what the hell are you on about. So we'll keep the interaction going tonight. At some stage, you're going to be passed a little bit of song sheets to read out. When one of the artists is announced, we want you to join in and do a duet with them. Our first artist this evening is a man who was paid tribute to earlier in the garden, and I think, in fact, actually Amanda came up to me and said her grandfather had done some work with this particular gentleman. And in the late 1990s, I was a researcher on a 2-part special called Turned Out Nice Again, which is a big clue to the first artist we're going to celebrate. Put your hands together for George Formby. That's old George there. Some of these pictures are from the BBC archives. Some of these pictures are from the BBC archives of George. So we were paying a tribute to him first, and this programme turned out nice again. I worked on. I came to Blackpool, and they have quite a few conventions on in Blackpool, and I was very pleased to meet Ted Formby, who was at the time the youngest brother of George. I've still got an interview with Ted somewhere in my own archives. And now I do try and get to Blackpool once a year at least, if I can do. And things have obviously altered since the days of Formby and fun fairs. In fact, me and my partner Julie were down at Central Pier yesterday, and there was a long line of tattooed people queuing up to see the clear-skinned lady, which just... If Bobby Ball was in, he'd be writing that down, I tell you. Now, just to let you know, we have got some guests who are very, very, obviously big celebrities, so they can't necessarily be here for their bit, so they'll come in a little later on, we hope. I'm sure we'll see a few of those guests soon, such as Bobby. And one of the things about George Formby was that he was on Desert Island Discs in 1953. He chose songs by Vera Lynn, Bing Crosby and his pal Joseph Locke. Now, does anybody know, would they like to hazard a guess, what his chosen luxury item was? What do you think it was? Which one? First. Well done. Actually, I've got some sweets somewhere. I could have tossed you a sweet there. That's very goody. There's not a huge amount of TV footage in the BBC archives, but I found this programme, which we're going to have a little bit of a clip from now, and it was called The Friday Show. And it went out on the 16th of December 1960, so we'll have a little look at George in action. Sorry about the time code, but it's the only one with a time code on. But here's George.
You see, what I've got to confess, folks, is that I don't understand music. I don't read it or write it, although I play these things. And of course, you see, a ukulele is strung in a certain key, and I can only play in one key. And a lot of my songs are in different keys, so I've got to have a different uke for each song. You see, nobody's ever heard that before. They think this is a gimmick, all this lot. But the trouble is sometimes I pick the wrong one up. And then it's every man for himself. Of course, I'm skating on thin ice, telling you things like this, you know. But that brings me to another song. You know, about 30-odd years ago, I had my first big hit. Well, it's not a bad song. It shouldn't be bad. It's been kept in cold storage all these years. Open the fridge, Wolfie. Let's see what it sounds like. Now here's a new amusement that is getting all the rage. You'll find that it's good exercise for folks of every age. Now I go there most every night and sometimes take the wife. I've never had so many ups and downs in all my life since I've been sitting on the ice in the ice rink. Sitting on the ice with my skates off. It's the finest fun I've ever had. Put it on the ice, it'll never go back. There's lots of nice young ladies, and how I like to tease them. If they don't give way or say okay, I sit them on the ice and freeze them. Last night I went out walking with a pretty little miss. She said, I like you very much, and gave me one big kiss. She was a perfect little blonde and not so very old. She let me hold her in my arms, but blimey, she was cold, 'cause she'd been sitting on the ice in the ice rink, sitting on the ice with the skates off. Oh, how hot she must have felt. She sat up on the ice and the ice began to melt. She was so young and pretty, but what a blow that fall had dealt her. We couldn't pick her up in the ordinary way. We had to bring a fire and melt her. Last night I went out for a drink down to the cherry tree. I didn't go there by myself, I took some pals with me. We landed home at 2:30. I rang the front doorbell. The wife said, where have you been? So I said, you can go to bed, 'cause I've been sitting on the ice in the ice rink, sitting on the ice with my skates off. It's the finest fun I've ever had. Put it on the ice, it'll never go bad. The buttons bust off my trousers. I got into such a tangle. I said, heaven help the sailors on a night like this, and never let your braces dangle.
I'm no authority on George Formby, but I'm going to introduce a man to you who is. And I'd like you to give a warm welcome, please, to Mr. Alan Yates.
George Formby's legacy still lives on 57 years after his passing. Tonight, I'd like to pay tribute to George's life and his music. George Formby was born George Hoy Booth in 1904. George was actually born blind, but after a few months he had a coughing fit which actually gave him his sight. George went on to be the highest paid entertainer in the UK throughout his songs, films and stage appearances. Originally working his actual working career as a stable boy, and went on to become a jockey. Myself, when I was 3 years old, I attended the George Formby Society conventions in Blackpool with my family, family being grandparents and parents and other family members. Little did I know what fate had in store for me. Not even in double age figures, I met my wife-to-be, who's here with me tonight. I started to play the ukulele and my own entertainment career went on from there. So, as you can see, I have my humble thanks to pay to George for my passion for music and music career. George met his wife in 1922, Beryl Ingram. When George married Beryl, she became his manager. A bit like me with my wife when we got married. Now, but Beryl got George his bookings, his record and film deals. George recorded over 200 songs in total. The first song of George's own, which he actually recorded, is called Chinese Laundry Blues. I'm about to go play it for you now. If you know the words, please join in with me.
With a shop with an old green door. It ain't no day old linen away, it really makes me so. Now he's lost his heart to a Chinese girl, and his laundry's all gone wrong. All day he'll flirt, start your shirt, that's why I'm singing this song. Oh, Mr. Whip, what shall I do? I'm feeling kind of like I'm Chinese laundry blue. This funny feeling, it's round me stealing. Oh, won't you throw your sweetheart over, dude? I'm just so sure that it won't fit my little brother, and my new Sunday shirt has got a perforated rudder. Mr. Whip, what shall I do? I'm feeling kind of like I'm Chinese laundry. Mr. Whip has got a naughty eye that flickers. You ought to see it wobble when he's ironing ladies' blouses. Mr. Whip, what shall I do? I'm feeling kind of like I'm Chinese laundry blue.
George made 22 films in his career, mainly spanning from 1934 to 1940. The next song I'm going to play for you was actually banned by the BBC in 1936. It was actually in the film Keep Your Seats Please. George actually performed this song for the royal family. It was a particular favourite of Queen Mary's. This particular song was so popular that he was awarded the first ever Silver Disc Award for selling over 100,000 copies. My wife and I, earlier this year, with 38 other members of the George Formby Society, had the privilege and honour of singing this particular song at the Royal Albert Hall for the Queen's 92nd birthday. So I'd like to sing it for you now.
Depending on its spot, for an old thick pocket, it's an interesting job. Now it's a job that just suits me. When the cleaner you would be, you can see what I can see. When I'm cleaning windows, honeymooning couples too, you should see them bill and cue. You'd be surprised at things they do. When I'm cleaning windows, in my profession I work hard, but I'll never stop. I found this blinking ladder till I get right to the top. Now pushing bright, divine, bridegroom he is doing fine, rather happy job than mine. When I'm cleaning windows, the chambermaid sweet names I call. It's a wonder I'm on full, mine's not on me work at all. When I'm cleaning windows, I know a fella such a swell. He has a thirst, it's plain to tell. I've seen him drink his bath as well. When I'm cleaning windows, in my profession I work hard, but I'll never stop. I found this blinking ladder till I get right to the top. Now pajamas lie there side by side, ladies' nighties I have tried, I've often seen my gold inside. When I'm cleaning windows, queen, she looks a flapper on the screen, more like 8 than 18. When I'm cleaning windows, in my profession I work hard, but I'll never stop. I found this blinking ladder till I get right to the top. Now the old maid walks around the floor, so fed up one day I'm sure, drag me in and lock the door. When I'm cleaning windows,
thanks very much.
Put your hands together, please, for Alan Yates, Royal Football entertainer and player to the royal family. I say, put your hands together for Al Reid. Now, a bit of interaction. Who remembers one of Al Reid's catchphrases? Who said that? Oh, you're too far back. Any other catchphrase? Oh, go on then. Catch. Where was original missed? There was another one as well. Not a catchphrase. You'll be lucky. Who is that? Oh, you can't be. No, I'm not chucking them at you. Right. A few years ago, as Ian mentioned earlier on, I was very pleased and privileged to work on a programme about Al Reid. As Ian mentioned, it was called Al Reid Rediscovered. And it was presented by a fellow Salfordian by the name of Robert Powell. And it was always good to arrange lunchtime meetings with Robert Powell, because there was always a lot of food and drink around his table when you met him. Now that's going to fall flat, isn't it, if you don't know he played Jesus anyway. It did fall flat, didn't it? Tough crowd, Johnny. Anyway, it was a good meeting with him, and he agreed to do it because they both had similar accents. And Powell discussed characters such as Johnny Know-all, the little rascal, the nagging wife, and for him, a lot of us, the smell of roast beef on a Sunday afternoon with Yorkshire pudding immediately transported him into Al Reid's world. He was born in 1909, he grew up in Salford, his family being in the butchery business. His grandfather's claim to fame was that he was the first to put sausages in tins. So, I don't know. Were they hot dogs? I don't know. Anyway, that was something I got on the internet. Reid's early life was spent playing in the back streets, where he gathered the chattering stories which would later surface in his comedy. In the audience this evening, we've got quite a few interesting people from the world of entertainment. If you don't know who you sat next to, just have a little look to your left or right, and you could be sat next to a major star. You never know. Look. Do they look like a major star of entertainment? We'll be letting you know who you might be sat next to later on in the second half. But there is somebody who somebody is sat beside this evening, and you may, if you were at the unveiling, met her earlier on. She is the daughter of Al Reid. Please put your hands together for Julia King. Julia, would you like to come up and say a few words, or would you like somebody to bring a microphone to you there? Paul will bring a microphone to you. Julia's just going to say a few little words about the event and any memories you may have.
Now, my father, it became popular in the 1950s, and somebody asked me this afternoon, did he give up the factory, the meat business? Yes, he did. He couldn't really do both. But it was his father's business, and he bought it from his father. His father didn't give it to him. He made him pay full market price for it. That was my grandfather. And I remember my dad saying, when he was a little boy, he used to go out on the pony and trap. They used to deliver with pony and trap. And he said he used to go out with his father, delivering the meat and the pies and what have you. And if it was cold, his dad would say to him, "Are you cold, lad?" And he'd say, "Yes." He said, "Well, get out and run behind." Yeah, that was the kind of life that they grew up in. But I mean, I had a much better life because my father became a comedian and a professional, and so we lived quite a nice life, and I got to see lots of places. I went to lots of theatres, I met lots of stars and people like that. I never turned professional, but I was an amateur actress, and I liked being backstage more than on the stage, to be honest. And I do remember when he was at the Adelphi for 2 years, I used to like to go to the theatre when there was nobody there. I used to like to be in the theatre on my own, maybe with just the cleaners or people like that. And it was, I don't know, it was a lovely feeling. Do you have that sort of feeling? Yes, it's a special sort of feeling. But my mother was also an amateur entertainer, and my parents met when they were both doing dinner entertaining at, some dinner round table or something like that. They met there, and I remember my father saying, "She's good, this woman, I'm going to have to marry her." And she was good as well. The whole family was involved in the theatre. My brother Howard became a magician. Didn't go on the stage as a comedian or a singer or anything like that, but he was magic. He lived magic the whole of his life. Sadly, my brothers are not with us anymore. They both passed away. So I'm an orphan. Oh. But, you know, if anybody wants to ask me anything about my dad, I will tell you. This is so unexpected. I haven't sort of, you know what you really would like to hear. You know.
There's no fee as well, do you?
Sorry?
There's no fee as well.
There's no fee. Oh, in that case. We lived at 34 Cavendish Road, 1930s semi. And I loved that house. It's not the same now, there's all bungalows around. When we lived there, it was all spare ground and sand hills and things like that. My brothers used to play opposite in a big sand pit. But then when he became famous, he bought a house in St Anne's Road East, which, well, now I see it now, the people who bought it from us have ruined it. It's horrible. Oh, my mother cried when she saw what they'd done to it. Yeah.
Yes, I was in pantomime with you.
Cinderella.
When your mum was producing.
Oh, my mum was producing?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Your mum was, Joyce.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And
She did.
You were one of us with them.
Oh,
in
right.
In the chorus or whatever.
Was it Jack? No, not Jack.
I think it was Mother Goose, I think.
Mother Goose. I don't remember. I remember I was in Cinderella with my mum. My mum was one of the ugly sisters. And I was Dandy. Which was lovely. I met lots of people there, famous people. I remember meeting Robert Cummings.
It didn't always transform to television, but I think we found a clip which is very, very, very funny. And it's a time Al appeared on The Parkinson Show in November 1980.
Now then! Who let him out? Get in that room! Get in that room! Get in that room! No, let the dog get in the room. You come out. Now get under the table. Get under that table. Get under the table! I'm talking to the dog. Now sit. 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 Good boy. Good dog. Sit. He's wagging his tail, Michael. Wants to make friends. Make friends with him. No, don't put your arm out to pat him. He's not at his tea. Now then. Now then. He wants to kiss you. Now, let him lick your cheek. Now, don't show fear. Don't show fear. Don't show fear. Let him lick your cheek. Now, get down. Get down. Get down. Get down. Get down! Get down! Now, sit! Sit! That's better. He knows every word you say. You say the wrong word, he'll love you. Hello. What's he got in his mouth? What's he got now? He's picked something up. Drop it. Drop it. Drop it. Looks like a cable. No, don't bring it here. Have off the bloody air. Now drop it. Drop it. That's better. Drop it. Good. An old soft pot. There's not an ounce of arm in him, Michael. Not an ounce of arm. He's an old soft pot. He knows every word I say. I can say trust to him, and you can roll him over on his back and put your foot on him. Hey, you need the camera. Trust. 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 Roll him over on his back. Go on. Don't show fear. Don't show fear. Roll him over on his back. That's right. Now you've got him on his back, right? Now put your foot on him. There you are, what I tell you. Now you try and get your leg out.
Just yet, though. He was handsome, immaculately tailored, and flamboyantly roguish, with a trim moustache and a twinkling eye for the ladies. Ladies and gentlemen, your appreciation for Joseph Locke. a lady called Margaret Quigley.
I've been born and bred into one of St Anne's oldest families, the Melling family, who were in business locally for 5 generations. And I've seen and heard most things. Variety stars who were appearing on the various piers at St Anne's and Blackpool would often pop into our shop in the summer season. These included the Beverley Sisters, Frank Ifield, Nat Joplin, Russ Conway, the Bachelors, Dana, Scylla, who popped in for a blanket to protect the leather seats of her expensive vehicle for her pet Pooch. And my mother, I remember very well, who was working in one of our shops at the time when Russ Conway came in. And she was a very great fan of Russ Conway. He had a television programme and she absolutely adored him. And he came in and she just ran out of the shop and couldn't be persuaded to come out again until he'd gone. And he was appearing on the pier at St Anne's at the time. Despite all these stars, nothing beats the sight of a real superstar of his day, astride a dashing white horse strolling through St Anne's Square in the mid-1950s. He looked so impressive, and of course he was. It was Joseph Locke. Now, I was going to finish there, and I found a little bit more information. I thought was rather funny. It's by a local pub landlady who knew him very well. And she said he would finish singing the Holy City, and then come down the aisle shouting, "Maureen! Maureen!" asking for his holy water, said Mrs. Grant, the bar manager. His holy water was a pint of Guinness. He said that amongst his friends, his favourite songs was My Way, usually associated with Frank Sinatra. But it was Joe's song too, she said. He did it his way.
This is from 1977 from March, the good old days. Take it away, Joe.
Mr. Joseph Locke!
We'll make a bonfire of our trouble, and we'll watch them blaze away. And when they've all gone in smoke clouds, we never will be should there come another day, and the bonfire keeps on burning. Happy days will be returning while the band is playing. We'll watch our trouble blaze away. See them go right up to the sky and watch the flame go higher and high. Blazing away, blazing away. So come along, bring your worries. We'll make a bonfire of our trouble. La 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 la. And when they've all gone in smoke clouds, we never will be should there. And on the bonfire keeps on burning. Happy days will be returning while the band is playing. We'll watch our trouble blaze. I'll take you home again, Kathleen, across the ocean wide and wide, to where your heart has ever been, since first you were my bonny bride. The roses all have left your cheeks. I've watched them fade away and die. Your voice is sad whene'er you speak, and tears bedim your loving eyes.
great pleasure of working with this next artist a decade ago. It was a Radio 4 documentary called Drawn to be Wild, which explored the world of outrageous animated ladies, including Betty Boop and Minnie the Minx. She was fabulous to work with, very enthusiastic about radio, and we did talk about her roots, more of this variety than where she came from, but she was very connected with this area. And a little bit frustrated by it, as you will find out in a moment or two. Show your appreciation for Jenny Eclair. There she is. Yeah, now, Jenny Eclair's been a stand-up comic for donkey's years, and I went to do a little bit of research on her, not as much as Margaret did on Joseph, but there is quite a nice little bit on her website that her agency runs. So I'll just read a bit of this out to you, because she's not here. She's got work commitments tonight, but she sent us a postcard, sort of, which I'll also read. She was the first woman to win the coveted Perry Award at the Edinburgh Festival in 1995, and hasn't stopped banging on about it ever since. She still gigs regularly, has just finished a 50-date sellout tour around the UK with her show, How to Be a Middle-Aged Woman Without Going Insane. 2015 saw the release of Jenny's fourth novel, Moving, to rave reviews. It was a Sunday Times paperback bestseller and was selected for the Richard and Judy Book Club. Sales of her UK editions alone stand well at over 2 million. Her other novels, Camberwell Beauty, Having a Lovely Time, Life and Death of Vanilla Slices, have been translated into 9 languages. Some of you might recognise her from TV, although she was smaller and plainer in real life. Small screen highlights include all the Grumpy Old Women series, Loose Women, from which she was sacked in 2012. Doesn't say why here, do you remember that? Were you on when she was empty? Plus, of course, TV shows such as Splash and I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, when in 2010 she came third and has since developed a taste for kangaroo anus. It's everybody reading this. Lots of other TV credits include Storage Hunters, Celebrity MasterChef, surprising even herself with her ability to make a cracking chicken schnitzel in 15 minutes. She's on Countdown and the Antiques Road Trip, she being the antique. Weirdly enough, Eclair was, or rather is, actually trained as a straight actress and has done acting on Holby City, The Bill and Skins. West End Theatre credits include Steaming, Mum's the Word, and The Vagina Monologues. Jenny has appeared in the title role of the killing of Sister George for the Derby High House. Unfortunately, she spent the entire time she was on stage looking like an overweight Margaret Thatcher. She has also done a panto a couple of times. Good. However, her biggest... You can have a sweet if you want. I've got a sweet for her. Oh, Doc's got it. I've got a bone from one of them today. She's done all the Grumpy Old Women live shows, both in UK and Australia, and thanks to this show, apparently she's left phone chargers in every dressing room around the globe. Eclair is a writer as much as a performer. Sometimes it's just nice to sit down, she says. She's a regular contributor to various newspapers and magazines and has written lots of radio comedy, including Little Lifetimes for Radio 4. In her spare time, Jenny is a gym dodger, novice knitter and very bad painter. She now lives in South London with St Jeff of Camberwell, and together they have a daughter who works in theatre. And Paul, let's have a little look at a couple minutes of Jenny in action. Okay? Thank you very much, sir.
Sweet boyfriend had the whole week off work, salmonella. Now, this was the result of sharing exactly the same meal. Me, nothing. Him, like this, for ages. I know I'm a bit of an old bag about it, because I remember once he tripped over a wall, right? It was about that big, this wall. And he broke every bone in his foot. And I couldn't bear it, because he was like a cripple, basically. And he was just crawling around the house, because he couldn't walk. And I just found that very, very unattractive. And I left him. I took my daughter and we went to stay with my mother. When we came back, he was still crawling around the house. He hadn't eaten for a week. He hadn't been able to go to Sorry, but that just makes me laugh a lot. How horrible am I? But this, I get sort of this gross and sympathetic sort of attitude, I think, from my mother. I think it's because she's an army wife and she's quite hard. And because my father used to suffer from migraines and we all knew about it. And you'd know because he'd sort of like take on this pose like this. And so we'd sort of send him to his room, and then my mother would sort of flood the whole house with electric light and sort of spend a few hours in the kitchen banging pots and pans just to make it worse. And then he used to get malaria, which is a hilarious disease. It's one of those ones where you can just watch someone in the throes of malaria because they go bright yellow and shake. And my mother just used to leave him to rot, basically. And she used to resent having to go up once a day with a tray of soup, you know, some Jacob's cream crackers. Because that's what they like, isn't it? They go all sort of nursery. They regress back to the nursery and go all a bit sucky-thummy, and they want mothering. But sort of that mothering with a bit of sex thrown in. No, I just don't believe in all that. If a man wants mothering, I believe he needs smothering.
Which I'm not sure what that is. She wrote a postcard to Live in St Anne's, which she said she's very happy for me to read out tonight. Here we go. Dear Live in St Anne's, I'm writing you a postcard from me to you about you. It may even have a picture of you on the front, probably of the windmill, because that's your best feature ever since the pier burned down. I still don't get how that can happen. How can something that is basically standing in water burst into flames? I used to work on that pier when I was a teenager in the cafe, remember? I got sacked for clearly being too creative with my sandwich fillings. Ham goes with pickle, Jenny. Cheese goes with tomato. Them's the rules. Even ever the anarchist, I mixed those sandwich fillings up a bit. I may even have added lettuce. It's as if sometime in the late 70s, St Anne's got all the sensible heads in the town together, all the tax inspectors, bank managers and golf club presidents, and decided your future lay in being the antidote to Blackpool. I wasn't born in St Anne's, but I was raised there, within a vinegary whiff of Blackpool which sparkled naughtily in the distance. Bad girl Blackpool, home of tooth-rotting rock, promising all the excitement my parents didn't want me to have. To be honest, Live in St Anne's, you were a great nursery slope of a hometown, safe enough to become a cropper without doing too much damage. A good place for a middle-class girl to dabble in slaggery and excessive cider drinking, rolling around your sandhills with my tongue down a robbing some poor boy's throat. And he may be here tonight, we don't know, possibly. There's a guy at the back, definitely a contender. Now this might come as a bit of a shock, but ever since I left you, I've been on umpteen better beaches from Cornwall to Bondi, but only your stretch of muddy sands sports donkeys, and for this I salute you. Also, I will always have a great deal of time for a place that lists crazy golf on their local cultural to-do list. But Lytham, you're getting timid in your old age. Once upon a time you could water ski on Fairhaven Lake. Not anymore. You've got all health and safety on me. You keep losing things too. First the little rep theatre in Ashton Gardens, where our Sarah was an usherette. Then the decent cinema, which you swapped for a crappy little box that doesn't have magic colour-changing curtains. Your Lido, how could you bear to lose your Lido? Your great dozy mare, you let Lido become a car park. Despair, and that's why I had to leave you, because you decided to be as dull as possibly you could be, because you chose to play it respectable. I had to leave because you were making me itch. So I went to London and scratched that itch. After Manchester, she went, and then to London after she scratched the itch, which she's still scratching, but where I have found my true home, in the stink and the wink of the London Eye, in the galleries and bridges, among the towers and palaces, in the push and the shove of the capital. It's got a happy ending, this. But although ik bin Londoner, you made me live in. And while I'll always live here, my heart and soul and comedy roots are yours. They belong to the northwest coast, to the seaside postcard and the meat and potato pie of my youth. So ladies Lytham, I'll be up there soon to see you, my mum and dad and auntie, and I'll bring my own sandwiches as they have all the fillings, cream cheese, gherkin, salmon, black olives, rocket, lemon juice, loads of mayonnaise, oh yes, and crisps. Love and thanks, Jenny. So once again, please, show your appreciation for Jenny. St Anne's wasn't really the place for this next gentleman at the time. In fact, in one article it described it as a cemetery with bus stops. However, times have changed, and as he grew older, he began to appreciate the area a lot more, as we will find out in a moment. The English folk rock singer, songwriter and guitarist, who's been a professional musician since 1964, released 32 albums across his 50-year career. As a musician, he's known for his distinctive fingerstyle playing and lengthy, lyrical, complex compositions, reflecting his love of jazz and the poet John Keats. He's influenced upon musicians such as Jimmy Page, Robert Plant, Peter Townsend, Kate Bush, Pink Floyd, Ian Anderson, of Jethro Tull, who has said this man's primary influence as acoustic and guitar was a huge effect on him. Let's pay tribute to Roy Harper. Sophisticated beggar, he penned a track called Blackpool. You can find it on YouTube, which was mainly instrumental, but it contained the lines, "The rain falls like diamonds, pinpricks the still waters, and spread eagles its laughter across the green sheet of the sleeping sea." Sounds like Blackpool, doesn't it? Clearly this area and the waves Harper heard along the Fife Coast influenced his work. And I was handed this earlier on. It's not as long as Margaret's. It's alright, we're filling, we needed the time. This is an email, quite a long email Roy has sent of his recollections living in St Anne's-on-Sea. So I'm reading this for the first time basically because I've only just been handed it. From the age of 6, I was brought up at 27 Foreshore Avenue, which is off Healy Road in St Anne's to the north behind the houses on Healy Road. It was common land and open farmland in those days. In the same direction, after about a mile or just less, was the perimeter of Blackpool Airport. This airport land, searching for birds. You see, I've read this the first time and he's got typos in it, unless that's his blood. I spent many days and weeks on the airport, searching for birds' eggs and oddities, like the abandoned back end of a canvas-covered fuselage. I remember that I liked to think that it had belonged to Percival Provost, but it was probably just the back end of the common garden tiger moth. The eggs I found included lapwing, skylark, curlew, meadow pea-pit, and yellow hammer with linnets and hedge sparrows in the gorse. I once found a cuckoo's egg in a hedge sparrow's nest. The other eggs were still in there. Nothing had hatched. The cuckoo's egg stood out like a sore thumb, but obviously not to the unwitting future surrogate parents. There was a huge amount of fauna on the airport perimeter, including hares and lizards, gulls of all tides, toads and dragonflies. Sounds like one of your audiences, Johnny. To the east of the airport were the sand dunes. He's falling asleep, I have to wake him up. To the east of the airport, or the west of the airport, were the sand dunes. One day I found a smallish dead bird without a head. I don't know where this is all leading. It was a big puzzle to me for a couple of years before I realised that it had been a puffin, and its colourful head had been souvenired. I had 2 younger brothers at the time, and by the time I was 8, we had a small gang. We were largely peaceful, nice to hear, though we prided ourselves on our own pride. We took American Indian names. Mine was Haunted Fox. There were 5 or 6 of us, and we had competition, though it was mild. Leastways, looking back, I thought it was. Nonetheless, there were many adventures to be had over what was quite a large territory. Between the farmland, the airport and the dunes, there was much to dispute. In fact, it was a few square miles of open land. There were other territories as well. The aforementioned fuselage end was dragged home one day, only for our mother to reject it before it got beyond the gate. "I don't care," she said, "it's not coming in here." It ended up on the dunes. It's still there. It's a place we used to call the Big Pond, which was a body of water on the roadside of the dunes. We attached small oil drums to it and turned it into a raft, and it was fought over, usually by theft and removal, for a period of time. What happened to it in the end is lost in the great mist of time. We made 4-wheel trolleys from old pram wheels and discarded wood and raced them down the hill on Highbury Road towards the sea. Really quite dangerous. The only brakes you had were your shoes, which took a pounding. I remember my brother crashing into the curb and falling into the grass beyond the pavement. There was very little traffic at the time, but it was hard coming off onto the road. One time, on the patch of common land behind the northern side of Healy Road, we saw Frankie Vaughan, Diana Dawes, and Bona? Colino? Yeah? Colino. I know you was the reason we came. They said, I put that in, sorry, because I was getting bored. They said hello to us, and we exchanged a few sentences. They looked too suave and sophisticated, and she was really beautiful. Oh, she was a woman, was she? No, was a fella. What was he saying? She looks beautiful. Maybe she was dressing up. They were heckling at the back. They were unforgettable moments on that ground back at Healy Road. I've forgotten that already, but anyway. Go on, Roy. Let's go for a big finish here. The most memorable of all those moments. Do you want to read this out, Maureen? Because there's only a little bit left. The most memorable moments happened in 1948. Viewers will feel the same in here. When sweets came off rationing. Of course. We'd all saved our pocket money for a couple of weeks, and we went to the local corner shop, which I think was owned by Mr. Lee. And he's put in brackets a different spelling of Lee. So he's got L-E-I-G-H, and then in brackets says all Lee. To buy, I don't know if Matt's going to read it out, to buy whatever we could get our hands on. We came away with a few paper bags full of sweets and walked home eating them one after the other. It was quite a kind of weird kind of bliss. However, within an hour, we'd all been really sick. As sick as dogs, sorry you two, as they used to say. Our parents were unsympathetic, they were very amused. It wasn't really like them at all to be amused together. It was odd, there were lessons all around. Just one more paragraph. All of this and much more happened before I attended King Edward, the 7th school, Lytham, which was a complete change of life. We had a chemistry master there who, because his name was Jordan, was nicknamed Screwy Lewis. Or Louis, Screwy Louis, after the famous jazzer Louis Jordan. He had the unfortunate habit of shouting, "Stand up, boy," as he was twisting your twisting your ear. He'd just say car, to be fair to me. As he was twisting your ear in an upward direction. He's obviously in court at the moment. He was known as a drinking partner of his dad, which didn't help. Anyway, that's Roy Harper's memories. I was only handed this earlier. It's got today's date on it, so he only sent that through later. But it's nice that Roy was thinking of us. And we just we all play it all, just give it like a minute of Roy in action, I think.
One of those days in England that you said could never end, as I was spaced out and living every chance. One of those days in England we'd been saving up to spend, and buying rides on Mother Nature's funny belly dance. In my tree. One of those days in England, chopping baked beans in my coke. Please tell me when it matters, love. I might just want to get out of bed to see. But until then, my darling, let's get down and make some fun. There's really nothing better we can do. One of those days in England, and our love has just begun. And half the fun in falling is you don't care where it's to. Dreaming of tomorrow.
Now to another Harper of sorts, Robert Harper, born 28th of January 1940. He's a comedian, actor and singer, you know that, best known as one half of a double act. This man also appeared in various sitcoms and dramas, including Last of Summer Wine, Heartbeat and Not Going Out. Please show your appreciation for Bobby Ball. Together with partner Tommy Cannon, they've worked together over 55 years, we established that earlier on, bringing happiness and laughter to millions. In a moment, I'll introduce Bobby, who will tell you a little more about his career highlights. But one of our other distinguished comedians has sent us a telegram. This is from Bernie Clifton. Dear Steve, you're an inspiration to us all, a genius. Oh no, I'll skip this bit. I'll just get on to the relevant bits here. I'm so sorry I can't be with you today, especially as some of the stars you're honouring have been part of my life since childhood. Growing up in St Helens, that is St Helens, not St Anne's, George Formby seemed to be our local hero who could easily have lived around the corner. Annual trips to the Isle of Man for the TT meant queuing to see No Limit. I never tired of watching this film, which got funnier by the year. The whole family, along with the rest of the nation, were avid listeners to the El Reed show. His immortal phrase, "Right monkey," became part of everyday life. Then Les Dawson, who we'll hear from some memories from him later on. What a man. I met Les in 1971 at the Good Old Days recording. He took time then and many times later through the years to mentor me. He inspired me, persuaded me to change direction. I owe him so much. But moving down the bill, says Bernie, I've known Tommy and Bobby for over 40 years. I gave them their first break. They'll dispute that. He said they would dispute it. He said Bobby's going to say, yeah, right, he's put that down. But you don't really know people until you live with them. And sharing a house with Bobby and Tommy in Las Vegas for ITV's Last Laugh in Vegas was very educational. It taught me a lesson. Cooking a full English breakfast for myself, I had Tommy, in brackets, the master baker, I'm sure that's not a typo, on one side, and Bobby, the quiet one, on the other. Both of them constantly criticising my efforts and suggesting I sent out for an ostrich burger instead. This experience has scarred me for life. It's nearly dead now. This experience has scarred me for life, resulting in my becoming a vegetarian. I'll be out of therapy soon, and the doctors say with proper care, I'll be fine. Thanks a bunch, fellas. Viva Las Vegan. I hope the pair of you can sleep at night. I know I can't. But have a wonderful day. Flight's famous. It's a wonderful concept. I wish you well. Love and peace. That's from Bernie Clifton. As we digest Bernie's ostrich burger, let's watch a little bit of Bobby in action. Hopefully things you've not seen or never seen for a while.
The show business personalities of the year, Cannon and Ball.
Thank you very much, Lord Delphant,
Lord Delphant,
Chief Barker, Minister. We would like to just say that it does give us a great honour to accept this award.
Here today,
I think that this is one of the most pleasant awards that we could ever agree that you could ever accept. Shut up! For God's sake, we both can't do it at the same time, can we? Just keep quiet, right? Sorry, quiet. I don't mind who does it as long as you keep your mouth shut. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it does give us, well, great honour to accept this award. But there's a lot of people behind this success of Bobby and myself, and they're too numerous to mention. So all we can say is, thank you to everybody concerned. Thank you, the Variety Club of Great Britain, for the award. It's beautiful. Thank you. And what have you got to say?
Thank you Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, I thank you! Thank you! Thank you! Thank you very much.
I say it, Tommy. What's up? Don't you like it?
I don't like the song. What are you doing?
Are you going to the toilet?
No, I'm not going to the toilet. What are you doing?
So,
What are you doing?
I'm going now.
What do you mean you're going now?
Listen, she'll be coming round. Shake, Tommy, shake. Please, Tommy.
Want to shake hands now? Stay out of my way. I don't want to shake hands with you.
Only a bit of fun.
No wonder at the bottom of the ladder. How do you expect us to get a summer season here?
Will you be my friend?
No, I won't be your friend.
Tommy, I've got no friends. I'm in with the elephants. It's not nice. Will you be my friend?
I'll be your friend if you keep quiet, okay?
I'm serious, you know.
Well, so am I. In front of all these people, I'll be your friend if you keep quiet.
Honest?
Honestly.
Can I ask you a personal question?
Okay, what is it?
When I die, will you still remember me? I've got nobody. I've had a rotten Christmas.
Robert, I'll always remember you.
You never forget me?
I'll never forget you as long as you're alive.
Honest, Tommy?
Honestly.
Them are nice words, them, Tommy. Thanks a lot, mate.
Anytime.
Thanks, Tommy.
Anytime you want my friendship, you let me know.
Thanks a lot, Tommy. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Cook.
Cuckoo.
That's the first one I've heard this year.
Oh, be quiet. What are you messing around at?
You never forget me.
Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm going to do...
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
You forgot me already.
I haven't forgotten you.
Tommy,
What are you messing...
Tommy, rock on. Eh? Rock on.
Okay, come on, let's rock on.
Come on, then, Tommy.
Knock, knock! Maybe it's a big horse. Maybe it's a big horse, I'm a London. Not very good. So, there was a job of a compare is to make a comedian look a lot better, so I'd have just proved it there. So let's meet the man himself. Then, Joe, put your hands together for Bobby Ball!
Thank you. Usually, I get a little bit more than that when I get up. So I'm going to sit down and I'm going to get up again. I want you all screaming and shouting. Otherwise, I'm off. Right. Ladies and gentlemen, Bobby Ball! Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I've got to tell you, it's very difficult. I've never done this before. I've had hecklers, I've had all sorts of things. You don't see it at the back, but from the front here, it's very difficult to talk to when I'm looking at the dog's bottom. There's a dog here stood up looking at its master, you can see her bottom. But I just want to say, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank St. Anne's in Bloom for giving us this award because it's absolutely fantastic what you've done for it. It's really touched us. And thank you very, very much for giving us this thing. I'll get up here, but I like to be above you. So, we've been here for, me and my missus are here. They've all stand up, say hello then. I never thought I would have a plaque in St. Anne's, so it's wonderful. I've been in the business for a long, long time. A lot of you, because I'm looking round, ladies and I know you remember because a lot of you are older than me. Let's go for it. Come on. I used to do the radio, ladies and gentlemen, standing on the radio for a man called Jimmy Clitheroe. You remember Jimmy Clitheroe? I was 8-year-old, and that's what I used to do. And then I grew up within the business, and 10-year-old, and then all that. And then I became a welder. I packed it all in, but I thought show business was for sissies. And I watched Johnny Castle, and I realised that's true. John, close your legs. I can see your rupture, pal. But anyway, I packed it in and I became a welder, ladies and gentlemen. And I met Tommy. He was a fitter welder, he used to run. How's that now? Is that a dog? Oh, it's not the dog. Anyway, so I did that for many years, and then we decided to do a double act, and we did a double act, and we started working professionally as a comedy act, or singing act we started, and then we realised that in the clubs, the comedians got £3 more than the singers. So we said, let's do comedy. And we got £3 more than the singers. And we were rubbish. Absolute rubbish. And then we watched Johnny Castle and we realised we weren't that bad. He's coming up in a minute. He's here, he'll be happy in a minute. I can see him building. Anyway, so we did this and we went all over the country, ladies and gentlemen, professional as a double act, doing clubs, ladies and gentlemen. Anybody here from Scotland? Anyway, do you know the difference between a Scotsman and a canoe? A canoe tips. We went all over the country doing these clubs. I'm telling you a life story. Do you want to hear my life story quickly? So we did all these working men's clubs, ladies and gentlemen, all around the country. Then we started doing nightclubs, and they were brilliant places because you could learn your craft and you could learn how to, like today, you don't have to learn to be in show business. Just go and do a reality show and suddenly you're in there. In our day, and Amanda's and in Johnny's, you had to go and learn your craft. You had to go and do places where you didn't go down well and you learned from that. Do you get what I mean? And anyway, and think about it, I'm from a very beautiful little picturesque village in the north of England called Oldham. It's Twin Poulton. And you know Poulton. Well, it really is time to go. Anyway, I don't live there now, ladies and gentlemen, and then I moved to St Anne's. How long ago? About 20 years? Yvonne, stop her talking when I'm on. How long ago? 20 years? We lived in St Anne's for 20 years, ladies and gentlemen. Then we moved to Lytham. Now, I like Lytham, and don't get me wrong, but it's for old people. I'm the only one living there with my own hips. It's true though, you look round, all the shop windows are bifocal. I'm telling you. This old couple's driving along, and the policeman stopped and said, excuse me, you were speeding. She said, what did he say? What did he say? What did he say? He said we were speeding. He said we were speeding. Policeman said, where are you from? She said, St Anne's. He said, what did he say? What did he say? What did he say? He said, where are we from? I said, St Anne's. Policeman said, oh, he said, I spent one night in St Anne's once. He said, I went with this most ugliest woman I'd ever seen in my life, who was passionate as a dead fish. He said, what did he say? He said, he knows you. Anyway, these are laughs. These are laughs. And half of them are dead. Anyway, so, that was my life, ladies and gentlemen, and it's very difficult. I'm enjoying myself, and my wife looking at me going, why are you doing how can you work? Why did you talk? Anyway, and Johnny's coming, see? Anyway, so we did that, ladies and gentlemen, and suddenly we get to do a thing called Opportunity Knocks. Do you remember that? And we came last. A pig won it that could whistle. Amanda went, yeah, I don't remember that. Anyway, so we did this, and then we got on television, and you all know what happened then. So we had a great career, me and Tommy. And me and Tommy this year are celebrating 55 years of working together. And that makes us one of the That makes one of the longest working double acts in England today. I'll just tell you a couple of stories, then I've gone. Alright, love, thanks. Wrap it up. So we got on television and we had a great career and we've done everything. I remember we went to Eric Clapton. You remember Eric Clapton? We went to Eric Clapton's 25th anniversary and it was a party at his house and everything. And we're there and they're all there. And Ronnie Wood out of the stall. Do you remember Ronnie Wood? He was at stores with us, and so we're having a drink and all that. And then, I had to go to the toilet. And when I went to the toilet, George Harrison stood here at the side of me. This is my claim to fame. And he stood at the side of me, and he said, "Oh, it's the man himself." He said, "Is that all you can do, is pull your braces?" I said, "Can you only play 4 chords?" And he said, "Well said," and we became friends. So we've had a great career. I made a lot of friends along the way. And sometimes in this business, great comics, ladies and gentlemen, they're not recognised. One is Johnny Casson here, who's one of the funniest men ever. Not that he's relate, but I mean that. And I'll just tell you before I finish, there's a difference between a comedian and a comic. And a comedian tells funny stories, and a comic is a funny man. Right? He's a comic. Bob Monkhouse was a comedian. Do you see my point? He was a comic. Thank you for listening, ladies and gentlemen. Von, give me once more, wind me up. Thanks. I've got to go. See you later. Bye!
It's been a lovely wedding. Thank you very much. Been a grand do, hasn't it, though? What a lovely night. Well done, Steve. You've done a marvellous job, that lad. Because you know, I've been in this show business for, what time is it now? Crazy business, but good when you get proper people, you see. I mean, I love the area. I'm living in Blackpool. I'm from Yorkshire, but you can't pick your parents, can you? So I'm living in Yorkshire. I don't know if you've seen it in the paper. The council in Blackpool, they're trying very hard to get Blackpool twins with Las Vegas. Honestly, because apparently Las Vegas and Blackpool are the only 2 towns in the world where you can pay for sex with chips. I might have to rent it, get away. I don't take it. No, she don't hammer it. I'm lost without her. And I'm lost with her, but I'm lost without her. Well, I come in the house the other day, and my wife's watching this documentary on telly. She said, "Sit down and watch this, it's amazing. It's all about the human body." She said, "I've just learned there are 214 major nerves in my body, and you get on every bloody one of them." This is my second wife, by the way. And my first wife died, she fell down the wishing well. Anyway, we got married, and we had the reception at McDonald's, and that was the last happy meal I had. When I met her, she said to me, "Ever since I was a child, my ambition was to get married in a castle." And I thought about it and I organised it. And the wedding in the castle was fantastic. Until everybody started bouncing up and down on it. But what a lovely evening, and this is how it was. Why can't I be like this anymore? You see stuff on telly, you think from another planet. Do you remember last year, 6 o'clock news? There was a woman on there, middle-aged woman, spinster, church-going woman, caught on CCTV putting a cat in a wheelie bin. Remember that? Yeah? Fined £200. She put it in the wrong coloured bin. It's been a lovely day, and I think Fiona did a marvellous job at on the portraits of a magnificent young lady. And well done. I've known Bobby Ball over 50 years, and he's a brilliant, he's one of the greatest comedy entertainers. Well, as a dub act, he's the best since World War II. Phenomenal. I mean, they have 20 odd million people watching him on telly, and you get these imposters today, and doing all that non-laughing comedy. And Bobby's fantastic on that as a dub act. And him and Tommy are invincible if you work with them.
Oh, your neck off. Not long ago, he had to go, he had a broken neck. Oh, it's true. I'm slapping it tonight.
I fell down the stairs at home like that, 6 stairs, and I couldn't get up. I was conscious, but I couldn't move. Just a stupid accident. And Anne-Marie's playing backgammon on the computer. She plays in the American League. She's dynamite. And she come out and she says to me, "What have you done, you idiot?" I said, "I've fallen." I says, "Can you help me up? I can't move." She said, "Why have you done this to me? I'm in a tournament." I've only broke my shredded neck. Anyway, they sent me home from Victoria Hospital with a box of paracetamol. And when I went back, this fellow scanned it, this neurosurgeon. He said, "You broke your neck, you should have been here hours ago." I said, "I came and they sent me home." Well, I couldn't believe it. So the surgeon came, Pakistani fella, lovely man. He said, "2 things we can do." He said, "We can fit you with a halo, that scaffolding on your head like that. 24 hours a day for 12 weeks, and when we take it off, you may need an operation." I said, "I'm not wearing one of them." I said, "I can't do with people laughing at me." I'm not So they operated the next day, and they fixed my head with titanium. And I said, "How do you fasten them things to the back of my skull?" I saw the X-ray. He said, "Self-tapping screws." I said, "Amazing." I said, "My mother always said I had the bloody screw loose." You know. Anyway, I thought, I shall never tell a Pakistani joke ever again, so watch out. And I got to my car and I thought, no, this is stupid. And but it was a darling of a man, and I'm here to tell the story. They sent me home with a box of paracetamol. So I'm actually with extra touring at the moment with a play that Bobby Ball wrote. It's called The Dressing Room. We've had it allowed up in a couple of times. And it's a joy to me. It's one of the best things I've ever done in my life. And I could do it for the rest of my life. And it's a great cast. Bobby and Tommy and Stu Francis, who was behind Cracker Jack. And Anne-Marie, lovely Anne-Marie, she's in it. And she plays a part of my wife. And I don't know. I said, I came down one morning at home and I walked in the kitchen. She turned to me and she said, "Oi!" I said, "What?" She said, "There's only one thing we'll say in this marriage of ours." I said, "What one thing?" She said, "The missionary position." I said, "Missionary position? What do you mean?" She said, "Well, I'll stop here and you go and live in Africa." So it's been a real honour. I'm pleased to have been asked to address you on behalf of Bobby. God bless you.
Johnny Cresson.
We have a special guest, great money, great value for money tonight. Please put your hands together and welcome Amanda Barry.
Now, Amanda's going to tell you a little bit about some of her career memories. A little bit. And then we're going to invite some questions from the audience. There's a man sat there who has a question for you called Eric.
Do you know what? I would really like to thank everybody for what happened today. A privilege. It really is. And also, this incredible atmosphere that you all got. I mean, I left here years ago and went to London, but it is so lovely to walk back into this, actually. It just doesn't happen just anywhere. I mean, it happens here, Because you see, you prove it, if you come from up here, I know they laugh, but you know, you've got to laugh. If you come from the north in the first place, you have to laugh. And today I just thought everybody that's done what they've done here, you've done it so beautifully. And well, I've always wondered why I wanted my ashes scattered, actually. When you get to my age, you start thinking about those things. And I thought today, well, why not have them scattered in the garden there? Because it would save Hillary paying for a plaque. Well, actually, I have to say that, you know, when they rang up about this and said they're putting up a plaque and you are going to be on it, I thought, do they know I'm not dead? I don't know what to tell you about my career. I can only tell you about St Anne's here. It made a big impact on me because I went to boarding school here and I was deeply unsuccessful at everything. I was expelled, they had the police in, I couldn't even begin to start telling you the stories that actually happened in St Anne's. But it made a very, what? What? Hello, I'm hearing voices. What, darling?
What would you expelled for?
Well, I think they just didn't have good taste, quite honestly. I just thought anyway, it wasn't just St Anne's because I was expelled from the school after. I don't know. My career was not a career, it's just something that happened. It was sort of, but it's been a privilege to be in this profession all my life. Yeah. I love it really. Hate it on days, but love it really. And I hope he asks me some questions, because I don't know what I'm talking about. What?
Are you saying
Okay.
The last bus is at 10. Yeah. Right.
Well, you've been in this business a long time, I know you have.
Yeah.
Almost as long as me. But during your career, you must have stayed in many boarding houses.
Yes.
Can you have any funny stories?
Theatrical digs.
Theatrical digs.
Theatrical digs?
Yes.
Funny stories? Yes. Oh, yeah. Actually, when I was in Aberdeen in the chorus, staying in digs, the landlady lost her cat. Bobo, it was called. Bless you. It's all right, you don't just me, don't cry. And she had a cat called Bobo, and it went missing. And it was the week we were leaving. And in those days, we used to travel with theatrical skips. And I actually got to the theatre, and my skip was there. And 2 days later, we had a meow. I packed the cat. I didn't do it on purpose, obviously. But it was in there, and Bobo, I got it back, she never knew. She was very deaf, that landlady. She used to say, how was the show? We'd say, it was dreadful. She said, good. That's one story.
Thank you, man. That's wonderful. Thank you.
No one else talks about Gordon Ramsay? No. We're not joking.
Oh, what about Gordon Ramsay? Go on.
You want me to?
Yes, I want you to.
Well, I hit him.
Yeah, but why?
Because he's got the sort of face that everybody wants to hit. In their life. What?
Do we want to hear about Gordon Ramsay?
I did. It was just, you know what those shows are like, and actually, he was not very, very nice to all of us, and he just went a bit too far, really, and I took a swipe at him because he was rather rude, and he yelled for security. Very loudly. So I took another swipe at him. That time I connected. But that shot was never shown.
When I I went on the telly to sing my little song. I practiced hard for weeks and weeks to stop me going wrong. I'm going to spread a little sunshine as I go on my way. Spread a little sunshine though the skies are grey. Shout to the world, it's good to be happy, alive, and fancy free. I'm gonna spread a little sunshine today. Well, I got into the studio knowing this was my big chance. But oh, I hadn't planned a mic in my right hand. There. But what about my dance? Then someone said...
Now, this will be a close-up shot, so therefore would you not move your head? And look, please don't smile like that. It looks like a Cheshire cat. Ah, yes. Now, look, that's perfect. Exactly like I said. Be natural, just relax and enjoy it. Show us how you feel, just be natural. Be yourself, forget your singing. Be real.
I'm going to spread a little sunshine as I go on my way. Spread a little sunshine though the skies are grey. Shout to the world, it's good to be happy and fancy free. I'm going to spread a little sunshine. Sorry about that.
We'll end with a smash. Once again, please, let's show our appreciation for Amanda Berry. Our final tribute is to a man that remains a very much and well-loved comedian, revered by his peers and is an inspiration to the current generation of comedy talents. The reason for his ongoing legacy is not only his ability to make audiences of all ages laugh and to transcend the boundaries between old school and alternative comedy, but also his immense talent as a musician, writer and actor. Johnny Vegas said he is etched into the DNA of British comedy. Let's show our appreciation for Les Dawson. I'm sure most of you have seen the TV programmes recently, and on page 122 of this book, When You're Smiling, he refers to this area. This is Les. As time passed by, I started to love and pine for my home life more and more. The simple things back there at Lytham slowly became far more important than anywhere and anything else show business really had to offer. I started working in order only to keep that home life intact. The balance had shifted, it really had. I mean, there's no doubt he had huge affection for the area, and I've only been here a couple of days staying over, and people in hotels and places tell me all sorts of stories about how he's sort of lit up the room and stuff. Now, we've got a BBC producer here called Peter Pilbeam, who's just going to give us a couple of memories of Les Dawson, if you can, Peter, because he worked with Les in the BBC studios. Just tell us when you first worked with him, and please give a round of applause once again for Peter Pilbeam. So tell me, Peter, when was the first time you ever met him, and what did you think?
At his audition in about 1962, I think it was.
Were you on the auditioning panel?
Yeah.
And you passed him?
We passed him.
Not like Paul McCartney.
In fact, no, indeed, and I still say the same about Paul. You couldn't sing then, you can't sing now.
Well, I agree with that.
It's not done his career much harm, but still.
So what was Les like then when you first auditioned him?
Well, I seem to remember the report that we wrote on the audition form said something, a funny man with a bull of a voice. Because Les was then used to sing, accompanying himself at piano, and he did a very good audition. In fact, I booked him straight away to compare a Christmas show that I was recording at the Manchester Royal Hospital Nurses Home.
Good gig. Is that a good gig? Is that a good gig?
Good gig, yeah. Yeah, indeed. He did a good job there, and then he appeared for me 5 times in a series of programmes that I used to produce called A Night at the Music Hall, which was a straight crib of Barney Callahan's Good Old Days, but on radio. And
what was your favourite Les Dawson joke? Did you have one? Or routine?
Oh, I think probably was the famous one. There was a young man at Bombay who sailed up to China one day. He was strapped to the tiller with a sex-starved gorilla, and China's a bloody long way.
Ladies and gentlemen, Peter Pilbeam. So let's talk about St Anne's on page 122. And on page 120, there's a picture of a girl with blonde hair, looking rather sweet. Do you know who she is? She's this lady over here. Put your hands together for Charlotte Dawson. She'll try.
I'll try. Right, put my Prosecco down there. You having a good night? Yes. Good. Right. Where do I start? Hi, darlings. Hello. I feel so proud and honoured to stand in front of you all today to obviously talk about my dad, my legend, my hero. He would have loved nothing more to have been here tonight, to obviously have a good drink with you all. He was the life and soul of the party, just like his daughter. As I'm sure he will be the life and soul in heaven as well. On behalf of my family and I, we are so delighted and honoured that we just don't have a statue of my dad. We've got a bloody plaque. We've got a chuffing plaque. And we're surrounded by other legends. Hello? Hello. My dad's statue is somewhere I go all the time, especially on special occasions, like his birthday, you know, his anniversary of his death, my birthday, Christmas. We've even dressed him in little Christmas hats and Christmas scarves, so we always keep him there all the time. And also, when I'm feeling down, I've always got my dad to cheer me up. The surroundings are beautiful in the garden, and honestly, I just feel like a massive thank you to all the people that made today and tonight happen. Thank God the sunshine finally came out today, and I definitely think my dad had something to do with it. So let's do a toast to my dad and all the other legends, if you've all got a bevy. Ching ching. Ching ching. Okay, same.
I think we have some questions. There's a gentleman on the left. This is Steve Ellison from the world famous movie store. He wants some movie archives and stills and stuff. I want to speak to that man after the show. So he's just put your hand up, Steve, so we can see where you are.
Hi,
so
Steve.
Steve's got a question for you.
Oh, go ahead.
Hi Charlotte.
Hi, darling.
Been lovely sitting next to you all night and your bodyguard here.
He's like my own little Ken. He looks like Ken, like Barbie and Ken.
I noticed you ran out just before. We all noticed. Charlotte, you were very young when your father died.
Yeah, I was 8 months old.
Yeah, and that must have been very, very difficult for your mother, having such a young child in the house. As you were growing up, did your mother talk about your father to you a lot?
Yes, of course.
And is this why you feel that he was always around?
Yeah, and also my dad, my mum always had my dad's cardboard cutout, always around. So I honestly actually thought my dad was there.
Yeah.
So obviously this cardboard cutout's there, and I'm just like, oh hi dad, like it's normal. So I always felt like he was there, and obviously my mum, you know, put his TV shows on the TV, and obviously I've got YouTube. You know, I'm so lucky because some people just have a picture of their dad or their mum. So I'm so lucky that I've got all this footage, and obviously I can get to know him through
TV, and, you know, obviously Bobby, Johnny, Amanda have all worked with him, and everyone speaks so highly of him, so I'm so lucky that I've got that as well. But yeah, it's also very hard because people always say, you know, what's it like being Les Dawson's daughter? Obviously, it's amazing, I love it.
Yeah.
But I would just love my dad back for one day, obviously, so.
Yeah, you know, years and years and years ago, Irving Berlin wrote a very telling line. There are no people like show people, and was never a truer word than that. And I've sort of been on the periphery of show business for most of my life. And one thing that comes across, it did with your dad, it does with Bobby and John, and all the other entertainers I've ever met, is the integrity, the honesty, the hard work, and the love. And you must have got some of this through your mother about your father.
Yeah.
What was it like when he came home and she shut the front door and it was the two of them, Mr. and Mrs. Dawson, and it wasn't the Les Dawson that millions of people had seen and loved?
Well, obviously I don't really know that because I was only a baby, but everything my mum's told me has been amazing. Like, you know, as soon as the door was shut, he was just the family man, you know, full of love, full of laughter, you know, still. But, you know, he's very soft, kind-hearted, and I've definitely inherited his sense of humour, but I've definitely inherited his sensitivity. Because I'm the most sensitive girl in the world, he knows, don't you?
Yeah, we talked about that earlier. Given the evidence...
Sorry.
Given the evidence, do you think you're like your father?
I'm definitely like my father. I even look like him. You can't see it. I've definitely inherited his double chin. Definitely inherited that. I can't get rid of it, so thanks, Dad. And I've also got a tattoo on my back of my dad doing a gurn. But obviously you can't see that, but I'll show people in the bar. I'll show people in the bar, it's a belter. So yeah, no, I've definitely inherited my father. I am definitely my father's daughter.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Steve. Just to clarify, part of that Dawson DNA is inside of you. Tell us a little bit about what you have achieved, just being inspired by your dad. What have you been on? What some of the people in this room may have noticed you on, because you've done a little bit, haven't you? You've done quite a
yeah, I've done obviously the things that I have done a bit of reality TV, which we're not going to talk about because, you know, let's not talk about them. But what I have obviously achieved in my career, which actually people don't know, I actually did a lot of acting when I was younger. I did the play A Taste of Honey. Does anyone remember that? And I played Jo, the main part, and I was pregnant, obviously not really, but you know. And so I've done that, and I actually did a comedy play, A Bed Full of Foreigners. Does anyone remember that? Okay. But, you know, obviously all I'm trying to say is I've obviously done a bit of reality TV, because that's what it's all about, unfortunately, these days. My dad probably wouldn't agree with it, but I'm sure he would have been king of the jungle by now, wouldn't he? So, you know what I mean? So yeah, I've definitely followed in my dad's footsteps with the acting and stuff like that. And I do make people laugh on TV, but in a reality way. But so I'm sure he'd be proud of me, hopefully, fingers crossed. Ching ching, Dad, be proud of me.
Ladies and gentlemen, Charlotte Dawson.
Thank you.
I know time's moving on a little bit, but I must just read you from Roy Hood's book of music called Variety. This is Les who sent the story, and he said, many, many years ago when my career was on the free list, turn the page, by some odd freak of chance I find myself booked on the Billy Cotton band show at the Manchester Opera House. Apart from Billy and his Merry Cro-Magnon Orchestra, the rest of the bill consisted of Gilbert and partner, a man and a chimpanzee, myself as compere, 4 sinister-looking lady tap dancers, a comedy duo whose bill matter escapes me, but I do recall they were so unfunny that when they once did get a laugh, it threw their timing out and they left the business. I wish I could read this like that. Last but not least, a gaunt elderly man who walked across a wire only 4 feet off the stage. The climax of his extraordinary performance was a lumbering attempt to play a bassoon whilst jumping up and down on one leg. The business at the Opera House was so bad, people with one eye were let in for half price. The theatre was so empty, night after night, that monks started using it as a shortcut to Vespers. One ghastly evening, the silence that greeted us from the auditorium was so intense that the mere shifting of a cough lozenge from one molar to the another reverberated like a musket volley. Good old lads, brilliant stuff. And one of the things which was on Sky was a series called Westworld, and Anthony Hopkins was on Westworld, and he was talking about classical composers, and he said Mozart, Chopin and Beethoven didn't die, they became music. And I think most of us in this room probably feel that same way about Les, that he never died, it just became laughter. And I think that's a really great way of sort of remembering. We also have a little bit of video footage to sort of round off on them. We're going to have a little finale after Les, but he's going to finish off the 8 tributes, and then we're going to welcome Alan back, who's just going to perform a couple more songs for us.
How dare they close this place? When you think of the great names that have appeared here, people like Gladys Allsop, Jenny Lind of Ripley. She used to sing Nearer My God to Thee and do a striptease in a bucket of ferrets. Who can forget Enrico Higgins from Halifax, the electric leg whistler? Stood on this stage and blew a fuse and shorted his orchestrations. He bent forward, a sheet of flame went right round. A fella said rectum, I said it bloody near killed him. But one name comes through the mist of nostalgia, which we must never, ever be allowed to forget. I refer, of course, to Seth Bottlecrud, the first man to discover that people who ate prunes were never late for work. And tonight, as a sort of eulogy, not only to the Playhouse, but to Seth, here is a song he wrote as he lay tragically dying at the Old Trafford Fish Festival. Looks like a penguin colony. As I say, he wrote this as he lay tragically dying. Then he died. He did write some wonderful songs, and here are just a few of them. There was a young man from Bombay who sailed to China one day. He was strapped to the tiller with a sex-starved gorilla. And China's a bloody long way. Can we forget? Auntie Fanny, by mistake, put centipodes in a currant cake. And the only advice that we could give was skip to the loo, my God. How many beans will you find in a tin? How many beans will there be? The answer, my friend, old barrow boy from Mill Hill who swallowed an atomic pill. They found his barrow in Harrow and his nuts up a tree in Brazil. course, the finest song ever written by Seth Bottlecroft was this one. I'd walk 1,000,000 miles if it wasn't for pine. As this is the last evening in this wonderful old theatre, maybe it'd be nice if we had a little bit of a farewell sing-song together. Will you join me? One thing I enjoy is enthusiasm. We'll start off with this one. We ain't got a battle of money side by side, so please join in the remembrance of all the energy that's gone into these walls, which will still live. Fill it up. Fill it up. Side by side, so let's hear those tonsils rattle. Joining on the diminishing fifth.
See that, but we're not quite finished, so we'd like to return to the very beginning, not to do the whole show, but we'd like just to introduce back on stage Alan, just to sing us off as we get ready to head for home, and he's going to do a little finale for us. We hope you've enjoyed tonight. There's so many people in the room that have helped out to put it together, especially Paul over here as well, working on the sound. Paul O'Brien, and a lot of thank yous you've heard tonight for Fiona and Ian, and thank you very much for involving me in tonight's proceedings. It's been very, very enjoyable for me. Thank you very much. And let's reintroduce, to round us all off and send us home with a smile, put your hands together for the wonderful Alan Yates.
Couldn't come here tonight without performing this song for you. I'm sure you'll all know it. If you want to join in with me, please do.
Along
like George said, it isn't a gimmick. No, they're in different keys. For the next part, in the dictionary, ironic is described as interesting, strange and funny. I find it ironic that my life's turned out the way it has, to entertain and be a member of the George Formby Society from such a young age and still be involved with it today. Originally I wanted to play guitar, but my hands were too small, so I ended up playing the ukulele. So 3 decades on, times have changed. I mainly play these days 50s, 60s and 70s music actually on a guitar, and obviously not the George Formby voice. Doesn't go very well with the Beatles. But I've never actually played a gig, even if it's been playing 50s and 60s music. I mean, most people obviously, you see on the internet that I play ukulele. I've never actually managed to leave without at least playing one particular song on the ukulele. So, there's a bit like George, my wife's my Beryl. My great uncle Joe actually met George Formby, and he actually looked almost identical. George actually told him, he said it was like looking in the mirror. But the picture you see on that is George Formby. There's my great uncle Joe. So it's a bit strange. So, I mean, I live obviously surrounded by the history of George, where he played, where he lived. I even live near to one of the 2 in the world what's remaining of the actors' chapels where George used to go. I've held in my hands artefacts once owned by George, such as his ukuleles, his silver disc and his OBE. So ladies and gentlemen, it's been my great honour to be here today for you all, to unveil the plaque on behalf of George Formby. So I'd like to go out in true George Formby style. Whenever George finished a performance, he sung this particular song. I'm sure you know which one it is. It was actually his last ever song he actually performed on stage, shortly before dying in 1961. It's his most famous song he ever did, so please join in with me. I'm leaning on a lamp, maybe you think I look a tramp, or you may think I'm hanging round to steal a car. But no, I'm not a crook, and if you think that's what I look, I'll tell you why I'm here and what my motives are. I'm leaning on a lamppost at the corner of the street in case a certain little lady comes by. Oh me, oh my, I hope the little lady comes by. I don't know if she'll get away, she doesn't always get away, but anyhow I know that she'll try. Oh me, oh my, I hope the little lady comes by. There's no other girl I could wait for, but this one I'd break any date for. I won't have to ask what she'd wait for. She wouldn't leave me flat, she's not a girl like that. Oh, she's absolutely wonderful, marvellous and beautiful. Anyone could understand why. I'm leaning on a lamppost at the corner of the street in case a certain little lady passes back your turn. I'm leaning on a lamppost at the corner of the street in case a certain little lady comes by. Oh me, oh my, I hope the little lady comes by. I don't know if she'll get away, she doesn't always get away, but anyhow I know that she'll try. Oh me, oh my, I hope the little lady goes. There's no other girl I can wait for, but this one I break any day for. understand why. I'm leaning on the lamppost at the corner of the street in case a certain little lady passes by. Turn down the house again. And as George Bobby always used to say, good night, good luck, and God bless. Thank you very much.
One more time, you appreciate it for George Formby and Mr. Alan Yates. Sorry we've gone a little bit over. Apparently the bar is open till 11 if you don't have to rush off. You may take requests in the bar, I don't know. But anyway, he's heading off. You want to say something, Ian? Oh, alright, don't be all night though, because these dogs will be peeing on a lamppost as soon as they go out of the place. One more time please for one of our main organisers.
What a night. I am so glad I had that third pint in Wetherspoons and came up with this idea. It's been amazing. Thank you all for coming. Now some of you have paid a £5. Some of you have got complimentary tickets. I would encourage you on the way out. I think you've had really good value for money. So if you'd like to make a contribution to St Anne's on the Sea in Blue or Variety, the children's charity, would be really appreciative. And thank you. What a wonderful night.
So big thank you to Fiona. Where's Fiona? Stand up, stand up. Thank you so much. Superb. Ian, you've met just now. Brilliant, thank you very much. From the idea of the coffee shop in Ashley Gardens to here, brilliant. And of course, please give the biggest round of applause for somebody that's done all the research and done everything for this. That's me. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Come on. I'm kidding. Come on, come on. Please, one more time, huge round of applause for the host of the compare. It's Stephen Garlow, ladies and gentlemen.
Paul O'Brien, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Thank you.
The bar is open. Thank you.